Hello, YouTube world. A lot has happened since my last video back in April, was right before surgery, and I'm here to update you. I think I'll do this update video. I'm just gonna try and do it in one shot from memory, which I'm a little chemo brain right now, so bear with me. But I'll update you on everything that's happened over the past 2 months. And I think in a separate video, we'll talk about my current treatment plan, what I'm doing right now, in case you're just here for wanting to know side effects and treatment plans and how I'm doing with that. So the last time I talked with you guys, it was April 20th, I believe. It was right before I was to have my VATS procedure, which was kind of a pretty invasive surgery to try and get some of the tissue that was deeper in my chest that they couldn't get with any other less invasive surgery. And we were just going for the biggest mass to try to get something confirming the relapse so that I could move forward with treatment. The procedure itself went well. The intubation was a little rough, just recovering. I had a cough for a while because they have to use a larger tube to intubate with, because then they shut down half of it to collapse your lung intentionally. So I had a cough for a while after that, but after the surgery, I had resolution of so many symptoms. It turns out they took out 13 cubic inches of tissue. According to the surgeon, he said it looked very obviously cancerous, and that he took out about half of what was there. So there was still another, so this is about like 13 cubic inches. It's like 3 decks of cards put together. He left half, another that size amount in there, and took that much out for the biopsy. And then it was kind of anticlimactic waiting for that, because I went in for the appointment a week later and was told it was inconclusive. The surgeon was shocked at my follow-up that it was inconclusive, because they said it looked very obvious that it was cancerous. And the way the doctor had that appointment with me, the oncologist, propelled me to seek alternative opinions, because I walked in, had to remind him of my case, and he literally pulled up the results and looked at them for the first time while I was in the room with him. So I kind of felt like a number and not really like a patient that he knew about, cared about, and he just kind of said, oh, all right, so looks like it's not confirming it, so we're just going to wait and do another scan in 3 months, see if things have spread. If they've spread to an easier area to biopsy, we can do another biopsy. If they haven't changed, maybe I'll bring it up to the lymphoma board then to see what they want to do, or if they would consider that positive and go on to the stem cell transplant. If things look better, then we'll just do wait and see and do CAT scans to follow up with that. So it was kind of a blasé answer, and I had spent more time looking at the report than he had at that point. So I was a little frustrated leaving that situation, but I was basically going to take the month of May off from advocating for myself and investigating and figuring out what to do, because I was exhausted at this point and I was still recovering from the surgery. And then I had a family member who had a friend who worked at a specialty hospital recommend a specific doctor that she really liked, and I was like, okay, thank you, file it away. Maybe in June, when I pick this back up after my follow-up PET scan was going to be in June, maybe I'll look into other options, second opinions, things like that at that point. So I didn't really do anything with it, but then in a Hodgkin's lymphoma support group I'm in, someone actually recommended the same exact doctor, and it's a doctor at Memorial Sloan Kettering in New York City, which I've got family in Connecticut, but like getting to New York City and doing an opinion there, I was like, kind of like, what's the point? What am I going to transfer all my care up there? It's not really logical when they have a stem cell transplant team down here. But as we planned a trip up to Connecticut for my daughter's birthday, to do her birthday party up here and kind of just see people for the first time in years since COVID, I said, you know what, I will see if they can do a telehealth visit while I'm in Connecticut. They can't do telehealth to North Carolina because of North Carolina laws, but I could do one while I was in Connecticut. So I was like, I'll just get a second opinion. I'll see if they can set it up while I'm up here. We'll see how it goes. While we came up here for my daughter's birthday in May, I started having some severe chest pain, shortness of breath. We made it through her birthday, and then I had my husband drop me off at the ER, and they did a CTA to rule out a pulmonary embolism since I'd had one before with similar symptoms. And after a 5-hour wait trying to get into the ER with chest pain to be seen, while I was sitting in the ER, I was kind of feeling around, and I noticed some swollen lymph nodes in my neck that hadn't been there a week or two ago, that whatever the last time I had been feeling around my neck. So I noticed those, did this scan for the ER. They said, oh, you know, there's no embolism, there's no anything that we can see would be causing a problem. I was like, all right, I guess that's good news. And I think the fourth person suggested it might be anxiety, and I was getting a little frustrated with that at that point. But I asked for a printout of the report. I said that I've got an oncology specialist second opinion coming up in a couple of days. Can you print out the report for me so I can at least show them something that I had this recent scan and they have the most up-to-date information? And they were like, sure, no problem. So they printed out the report, and as I was reading it on the way home, it showed that the mass in my chest had tripled in size. So basically after the surgery and they had taken that out, it ballooned back up, took up all the space probably that was left behind after the chunk was removed, and was compressing. This happened the first time I was diagnosed, but it hadn't happened since. It was back to compressing my trachea, compressing my right pulmonary artery, and compressing my superior vena cava. So you can develop superior vena cava syndrome, which was what was happening. And symptoms like that from that are chest pain, shortness of breath, cough from it pressing on your trachea. I could feel things when I was swallowing. I could feel that something was pushing on. And I also wasn't recovering from, that was one of my complaints. I wasn't recovering quickly. If I was out of breath from walking across a flat surface, walking from one end of the house to the other, it wasn't like I could stop and catch my breath. I had to sit down, give it 5 to 10 minutes, wait for my heart rate to come back down. And that's another symptom of superior vena cava syndrome. It's just like the blood that's supposed to be draining back out from the top half of your body is bottlenecked and can't, and it just takes longer to recover from exercise or exertion. So I was having some pretty classic symptoms, and I was kind of shocked the ER doctor didn't mention it, but they didn't have any previous reports to compare it to, so maybe they just assumed I knew it was that big. I don't know. But it seems like those were pretty obvious reasons for causing my symptoms. Anyway, fast forward, I had my telehealth visit for my sister's house in Connecticut, and the doctor wanted to admit me immediately to the hospital. She said, you know, I would really want you to come in, get an expedited workup. You're having chest pain. This is serious. We need to address this. And I ended up going into the hospital that night, getting admitted. It's Memorial Sloan Kettering. All they do is cancer. So I was admitted to a floor and worked up. They decided they wanted to do an excisional biopsy of my neck. They were going to do a PET scan while I was there. They did an echo, and the biopsy they did here, they took out 2 whole lymph nodes. They decided not to do a core biopsy where they just go in with a needle because they wanted to get enough tissue for sure. And she said, maybe your last stuff came back inconclusive because the cancer is growing so fast that it's killing itself off, that it basically is cutting off its own blood supply, and that's why the VATS procedure showed so much necrotic tissue in the biopsy results. So I was admitted. We got the results from that. The surgery did confirm the Hodgkin's lymphoma, and I was kind of discharged back home after the surgery to wait for the results, and they set up treatment very quickly. They said, we want you to come in, start treatment. You're gonna get on the schedule for a stem cell transplant. You're gonna do 6 to 12 weeks of chemo beforehand, and then the stem cell transplant. So I just had my second treatment yesterday. I'm a little flushed from the steroids, and I'll talk about symptoms and things and how the treatment is going in a separate video so that this doesn't go too long, because we're almost at 10 minutes already. But I have been astounded at the difference in care in New York. I don't have to advocate for myself. I don't have to beg for phone calls and information. I don't have to remind any doctor who I am. They all read my chart before they come in the room, which is so refreshing. Residents, fellows, specialists, they're telling me things and asking me to confirm if that's accurate, instead of me having to be like, oh, but by the way also. So it's just refreshing. Things are taken care of. Multiple people will come and tell me the results of something instead of me having to beg for the results. My appointments are set up and scheduled before I have to remind them that I need an appointment for next week or something like that. It's just a lot of It's a big change, and we did find out, this is the last thing I'll update here, at my appointment yesterday with the doctor. She had requested all of my paperwork, all of my imaging, and some had come through and some hadn't, but they had re-requested my pathology from the VATS procedure, the more invasive surgical procedure where they collapsed my lung, and they had only gotten them 2 or 3 days ago. She told me yesterday at the appointment they did in fact show Hodgkin's lymphoma relapse. They confirmed it. They had their pathologist reread the slides. It was there. So technically I should have started this chemo about a month and a half ago and been getting a stem cell transplant about right now. So it did cause a delay, and the downside of that is that it allowed the cancer a chance to get bigger. But in the end, I don't think I can be that mad about it, because I think that I'm in the right place, and I'm happier that I'm doing my treatment up here in New York instead of in North Carolina, and then having to, because I don't have the emotional energy to argue and advocate and Google and ask doctors if they're doing things the right way. So I'm glad I've switched my care. I'm glad I'm in the right place and at a very, very specialized hospital that's putting out, even just, you know, in the past 2 days has put out a clinical trial that showed that basically cured people with rectal cancer. All 12 patients had complete remission after immunotherapy, didn't even have any chemotherapy. So I literally saw that story as I was getting chemo yesterday, and it's just exciting to be in that environment. I don't know if exciting is the right word, but like relieving. I'm just relieved to be in an environment where I know things are being taken care of, and they know things that other doctors didn't. So that's it. I'll wrap this up for now, and I'll do the next video right after this on my current treatment plan, side effects, things like that. I'm going through GVD Pembro, GVD plus Pembro, so chemo and immunotherapy, and with the plans for the stem cell transplant, maybe sometime in July. So I'll do a video separately updating on that. Thanks for sticking around for the journey, and I hope I can answer any questions that you have. Feel free to drop them in the comments below.